My dear friends, you have already heard uh, the epoch-making speeches of an august galaxy of architects in front of me. Architect Dr. Punni and Dr. Oscar, who talked about personal architecture, who talked about contextual architecture, how to make public spaces, how to make strong statements in architecture in public space and things like that. You also heard Dr. Ajay Chandran, who talked about regenerative ecosystems. You heard of, it was actually music to me when Shailja talked about making artificial intelligence as your design assistant. You know, each time when I go to teach, each time I go to the College of Engineering, Architecture, the new students who get into the domain of architecture ask me the same question: is artificial intelligence going to take over? And what's going to be the role of an architect? When she said artificial intelligence can be made as your design assistants, that was actually music to me, and I'm sure there'll be music to the younger generation of architects. You know, your creativity and innovation, as she said, cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can be made use of by your interpretations and innovative spirit. That's what she was talking about. And Mohammed Amin, that was one of an epoch-making presentation that he made. You know how the new systems, the digital systems that are available as tools can be transformed into a very complex design. This thing. I mean, architects, they do buildings and things like that, but you know, the connectivities and linkages that we've been talking about, the transportation, you know, transit hubs that it's one of the most complicated design problems. And he has shown how deftly, amazingly, he has solved one of the most complex, this thing, talking about huge numbers of people, commuters coming at the same time. They aggregate at one point and then they have dispersed these things. Otherwise, it can lead to disasters, calamities, and how efficiency that circulation can be. It's all about linkages, connectivity. That was an amazing presentation before you. And finally, when the younger Varija talked about memories and how memories, you know, it was her unlearnings probably that moved. I was just looking at her passion and compassion with which she was talking. Her body language itself expressed a kind of connect with the design profession. I do believe that, as she believes that, I do believe that each building that you design, each space that you design, that's what architecture is all about. When you really look at the basic definition of architecture, it talks about, you know, taking, I mean, from an infinite space, culling a space out and making it for human comfort. It's not about experiences, my dear friends. Design is all about experiences. It's all about that kind of an experience that talks about memories, you know, intimacy, that talks about ecstasy and things like that. That's what makes your spaces so precious. With those words, I've titled my little talk as The Journey of an Unfinished Symphonist, because I want to address the younger generation of architects who are here to receive accolades. You realize that this national award, and as national awards, this will actually, we will give you a lot of empowerment, we will give you a lot of confidence to go ahead, but also certain responsibilities. I'm telling you, you are architects, designers, you have a huge responsibility of making our Mother Earth a better place to live on. And as it is, if it's not connected to time, if it's not connected to physical realities, if it's not connected to people, if it's not connected to values, I'm telling you, your architecture will be dumped. So take it as an opportunity to grow. You have to realize that you're the chosen ones, you're the blessed ones, and as it is, this recognition at this national level should actually spur you forward for a meaningful journey ahead. When I started my career as an architect, I was just remembering a saying by old German philosopher Ferdinand Nietzsche, who said, between 1 and 0, there's an infinity. Between 1 and 0, that distance cannot be measured. I started like that. I was very focused when even as a small child, as a school-going child, I used to get involved in some social activities. The basic activity was to take science and technology to the marginalized and the poor sections of society, which actually determined my way forward. The first time I was actually seeing poverty at such close distances. You know, I was working with the traditional fishermen, how to read and write, to impart literacy as a school-going student. And that actually gave me very clear implications, what poverty can mean to you. And as I grew up, when I took architecture, I wanted to get it related to the Indian reality, social realities. Everybody who wants to build a house have a dream. And as architects, how to translate it to reality. Even the poor people, the marginalized people, the people living on the margins, dispossessed people, they also have a right to get a designer house, designer house. And as architects, how could you give that space which can be precious and which can be very meaningful? That was my determinant all my life. My dear younger friends, you have already chosen the mountain that you want to climb. You have already chosen the mountain called architecture. And how to make that journey a big celebration is the poster that I want to put in front of you. You know, you have already chosen the mountain. There are several mountains in front of you. You have already chosen the mountain called architecture. And how to make that journey more meaningful and full of happiness and full of peace is the question that you yourself will have to answer. I chose architecture for a particular reason, because I want to stay connected to India, I want to stay connected to the soil, and I wanted to stay connected to people. I wanted it to be people-centric, and I wanted it to be related to values, truthfulness, honesty, and the rest of it. My materiality, my explorations, all are actually, when you really look at the crux of it, it always related to truthfulness and honesty. That's why I don't plaster it. When I use natural materials, I expose it. Because I believe that the texture, the color, everything can be intoxicating, and the feel can be intoxicating. And when you are plastering it, when you are manipulating it, when you are using anti-social elements, I know it's a very brutal usage, that actually kills the spirit of context, spirit of time, and spirit of the period in which you are, the domain of architecture gets suffering. So you have chosen the mountain. Before you climb the mountain, you have to ask somebody who had been there before. The mountain can appear very near to you, but when you start climbing, you realize that it's so far, far away. So it's better that you talk to somebody who had been there before. Because the person who had been there before will tell you a lot of important things. What are the important things that probably he will tell you? There are pitfalls. There are dangers on the way. You have to tread very softly. All these dangers can be told by a person who had been there before. Listen to him carefully. Listen to him carefully. If you want to make a mark in your life, in the domain of architecture, you have to think differently. You have to do things differently. Otherwise, you will not be noticed, my dear friends. If you don't want to, if you do the way all the others are doing, like somebody said, copy and paste, no, that's not the way. You have to think differently. Only innovation and creative expressions will outlast all the other expressions. So, talk to somebody who had been there before. He will shed some light on the way, and that will prepare you for the journey. And when you start climbing up, there are two things that you should do. Respect your body and respect your soul. If you walk fast, anyway you have made the decision to climb up a mountain, you have to get back to the valley before the day ends, before the night falls. You have to get back to the journey, because you lose your way. So you have to prepare your body. If you walk fast, you'll get tired. So pace your journey well. You have to pace your journey well. When I say when you pace your journey well, you have to look at the transformation that's happening in India now. Urbanization is no longer a myth. Transitional areas are no longer a myth. I was listening to the presenter who said, we are increasingly, the new generation of architects are going to work in the transitional areas. They're not going to work in the urban areas. Urban areas are all saturated. You're going to work in peri-urban areas. You're working semi-urban areas. You're going to work in that little space between the metros. That's a transitional area. And in transitional areas, magic can happen. So many things can happen. Your creative expression can bloom in that transitional area where people will give you that space. So take it up with confidence. That's a transformation that's going to happen. So when you start climbing up the mountain, pace your journey well. Look at the Indian realities and brace the realities to make your journey meaningful. As you start climbing up, stop for a moment. Stop for a moment. You inhale deep. That's what the compere was telling you. Before the award ceremony, you have to stretch your legs and hands. You have to make yourself very easy. How do you make it? As you climb up, stop for a moment. Look at the changing scenario. Look at the changing mountains around. Each step as you go up, the vista changes. The color of the sky changes. The color of the vista changes. That is what is happening in India now. The digital revolution that's happening. When you're talking about BIM system, we talk about digitalization happening in a big way. When you're talking about blockchain, tokenization, new words that I'm hearing, it's all about technology, my dear friends. How do you make technology integrate into public reality? It's a great opportunity for you to stop, breathe deeply, continue your learnings, and as you go up, finally you'll reach the peak. When you finally reach the peak, clap your hands. Clap your hands. Because why you should clap your hands? You have made it. You have made it to the top. You should clap your hands. Why you should clap your hands? There are many people waiting downstairs. My dear, down the valley, there are many, many people who are waiting to climb up. When you clap, when they hear the music of your clapping, they'll feel motivated to make it again. This is what I want to tell you. With my very mediocre background, very humble beginnings, if I can make 100,000 buildings, more than that, in this world, cutting across boundaries, cutting across national barriers, looking at various landscapes, looking at various cityscapes, looking at various mindscapes. If you can make experiential expressions in architecture, life is going to be there for you. I'm telling you, my friends, life is going to be there for you. Immense experiences. When I was climbing up the steps of Rashtrapati Bhavan to receive my Padma Shri, this is what I had in mind. There's a Sanskrit saying that goes, Karmanya Vatika Raste, Ma Phaleshu Kadajana. Action is your duty. As architects, you have plenty of work to do. You should thank God that you have chosen this profession. You should feel very blessed that you should, why? Because you are the chosen ones. Designers are the chosen ones because you're the most blessed ones in the human race because you are the creators of built-up environment. Who else will get with huge privilege of designing spaces? And all these spaces that you are actually dreaming about can be manifested, can be frozen into three-dimensional spaces, which are for others to see, feel, experience. Who else can make this eternal expression of converting your two-dimensional thoughts into three-dimensional entities? That is architecture, my dear friends. That's exactly why I tell people that here's a huge opportunity to connect, to build up connections, and that way bring smiles into this society. When I say bring smiles, it's very important, my dear friends. Public spaces normally don't give you happiness, don't give you peace. But can you create some spaces which can bring you peace? When I say peace, I talk about energy efficiency, I talk about climate resilience, I talk about resource efficiency, I talk about people-centric strategies, I talk about putting everything at the center, all my concerns at the center. Sustainability is not a worn-out word. Sustainable, you cannot live without sustainability now. The Mother Earth needs sustainable solutions. I'm telling you, as a fraternity of architects and engineers, we are primarily responsible for the climate change of this country, climate change of this universe. When we say that we are primarily responsible for the climate change, are we? I'm sure you'll be asking that question. My dear friends, as a fraternity, you should put your heads down in shame, because we are primarily responsible for climate change in every aspect of the built-up environment. So, you have a huge social responsibility. Do it climate resilient, do it energy efficient, do it sustainable, do it, low cost is a very important thing. When I say low cost, it doesn't mean low quality. By cutting down cost efficiency should be at the end of this thing. We need a lot of resources for other things to do. We need to build dams. We need it for national purposes, for our houses and institutional buildings. Let us look at local. Where else in the world, I'm telling you, my dear Indian friends, where else in the world do you have such legacy of beautiful vernacular architecture? Learn from that. Where else in the world can we have such a legacy of most profound styles of vernacular architecture? We have the legacy. We have the history. Learn from the legacy. Learn from the history. Learn from people's architecture. When I go to Harappa, Mohenjo-daro ruins, when I go to Takshashila and Nalanda ruins, I really get amazed. When I go to the temples, when I go to the old churches, I stand in reverence. When I go to Church of Three Kings in Goa, I stand in reverence. Because where else can we find such a legacy, such a fusion of architecture? We have the legacy, we have the knowledge, we have the human resources, we have the best, vocabulary of building materials in the world. We have the best vocabulary of building materials in the world. We have the best minds. So here is a period where you should really celebrate architecture. You're all young, you're all getting recognized at this level. Take this recognition as a huge beacon of, this road should beckon you. Base your practice in values, my dear friend. Base your values in people-centeredness, and that will lead you to amazing vistas. Take a road less traveled. Once again, let me tell you, take a road less traveled, and that will lead you to amazing vistas. With those words, I'll conclude. Yeah, it's exactly 7:15 now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind words.